So you just mentioned something. You said you've done the work.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that helped me even go through what I went through is I had been on this journey of personal development, of growth, even before, my trials and going through what I went through, which was helped me tremendously. Like get through it to the point where, I like to say I got through it fairly easily compared to most people because of the work that I had done on myself to grow to the personal development in life, right? Whether it was from when I was a kid all the way up until that moment in time, that was kind of my mantra was growth and becoming better and choosing to become better every single day and living my life to the fullest and doing everything I could to become just a better person.
Right, for sure.
And so when I went through that, it wasn't, I think, as hard for me as it might have been for other people. And one of the things that helps us now is, we live in a life where there is no chaos. It's so calm and so loving. Our home's peaceful. It's simply because we choose that.
Yeah.
It's literally, that's how we choose it. And we choose to grow together and do things that most people don't. In fact, a lot of times we see other couples and we see one person growing and then the other person not growing as much.
Sure.
And two things are going to happen. Either this person's going to get pulled back down or this person's going to stay here and this person's going to leave because this person's not going to follow them.
It has to.
You can't be around it.
You can't be around it. We see it all the time in our industry. I see it, out there in the world. And so if two people are willing to grow and have the same, and passions and vision of what they want in the future or where they want to go, then what happens is there's this chemistry and this calmness that allows them to just even go farther and do so much more because there's no contention. Like you come to our house, it's like we're always laughing because it's peaceful and calm because we're on the same journey.
And I didn't understand like personal development and bringing in the positivity and gratitude because it was always negative for me. And I felt like it was just always there, and so it was like I was attracting negativity because that's how I felt. Like you cannot attract something that you don't feel.
Yeah. I love that.
And so it's great because I used to have to like run away.
Back on.
I used to have to run away because it was always just chaotic and unhappy. There was always a fight. And so this was just a breath of fresh air because I want to be with him all the time. Like, people are usually like, oh, let's go on a girls' trip. I'm like, I don't want to go on a girls' trip. I'm bringing him with me.
I want to hang out with my best friend.
I want to be with him.
Yeah.
If you're going on a girls' trip, you better make up for it somehow. You're going to miss. I love that. I think both of you two just defined fully engaged, right? Like typically we ask that, what does it mean to be fully engaged to you? And I think that's it, right? And seeing that both of you've got to be individually working on each other, and then you picked up together as that team. She was just a couple months out of that situation, and the two of you going, and there isn't necessarily a right time of like, oh, you have to heal, or grieve, or do whatever, and then you graduate that, and now you're ready. There isn't a moment, but as long as those trajectories are committed in the same direction, that I think that's what you two have found that's different compared to what you experienced in the past. And because you've experienced something other than that, you know how good it is.
Yeah.
So I'll just ask this kind of in closing, what advice would you give to people out there? One of the things I know you've said to Bree is that you didn't necessarily believe that it was real. Neither of you knew because you'd never experienced it, right? What advice would you give to people that may be questioning if real companionship, real partnership, really being fully engaged, is that even a thing?
Well, yes, 100%. My advice would be you have to fully know who you are inside and fully love yourself and know that you are deserving and worthy of a love that you're so madly in love with that person. But you have to do it yourself first, and you have to work on all of the baggage, all of that stuff. I mean, I was sitting in my closet literally like writing affirmations
Aw.
and saying, you know, what I wanted out of
Yeah.
life and how much I loved myself. And I never did that stuff before. So I truly believe
That
that
stuff is powerful. Writing it
Yes.
down.
Yeah, writing it down, feeling it
Yeah.
as if it's already happened.
Mhm.
And we talk about that a lot because when I first met, he told me that well, you say it because I don't.
What?
When you talked about making space,
Oh.
because this, and when he told me this, I didn't understand it until I got it. But you cannot attract the love of your life if you don't make space for it. If you don't heal and know, I want to have this person, and you have to become those qualities too. Like if I wanted
Yeah.
to attract someone like Patrick, I needed to be those qualities in order to attract it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so he was always like, I made space for you. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he really did. Like,
So and just like you just mentioned about the qualities, right? Like if you're not together with someone, go write a list of everything you want in the person you want to meet. Like everything about them.
Mhm.
Like I'm talking from how they look to what they do to how much money they make to how much charity they give to. I mean, I'm talking everything, details. And then go become that person.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Once you become the person, you'll attract that person to you. And it's so important. But and then leaving space for that person. I was taught from one of my mentors. It's like if you don't leave the space for them, they won't be able to enter your life. So I left half my closet empty.
Oh.
I would park on one side of the garage, right? So you leave space, you know. It's like, okay, that's where I'm going to park. Envisioning, yeah, what I wanted. And I set my life up like that, leaving space for that person to come in.
Right.
Should we talk about the game of three
yeah.
rules?
So I know we
All
got to
right,
end.
yeah, let's hurry, we'll wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Okay, so there's something that also that a tool that we use, and well, we love personal development, so this is like a nugget for someone that's listening, and it's called the game of three rules. And it's a game you choose into. Like you literally have to say, I'm going to choose into this game. And there's three rules. Rule number one is you have to choose to believe that the past is perfect, which is hard for people.
Wow.
Because a lot of people come from a victim mentality. But you have to choose to believe that everything that's happened in your life has put you right here today. Every single thing.
Even losing someone.
Yeah, even the loss.
Okay? And then rule number two is you have to choose to believe that every person, including yourself, is doing the best they can with the tools that they've been given. You have to choose this. And this is hard because there's a lot of things that people are like, this happened to me, this person did this to me, this ex did this to me. But you have to choose that, and this is maybe forgiveness, right? But part of it is choosing to believe that they were doing the best they could with the tools that were given to them. Because not everyone has the same tools.
Understanding.
Yeah. And rule number three is you have to be 100% responsible for your life.
Mm.
Full accountability and ownership.
Full
Yep.
accountability. It's like people say, well, you know, this happened to me. It's like, okay, you chose to date them. That was your response. You chose that.
Yeah.
Well, this happened to me. Well, you chose to go there. Be responsible for everything. And if you play this game, you'll be able to live a life of abundance. You'll be able to live a life of progression. You'll be able to live a life where you're fully engaged in your relationships and have the most amazing life you've ever had.
And you'll attract so much.
Yeah.
I love
But you
that.
have to choose it, right? And that's what it comes down to, is choosing to have the life that you've always wanted.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Powerful game.
We're happy you two found each other. I'm glad that your paths took you to where you were, and that you're in Smiley, just like we said with starting this interview. You carry that energy, and it's cool because I think you see a lot of people that carry energy, they carry smiles, but everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Everyone has their path that got them there, and to see how that's brought you two together is really cool. You have a gift for them?
Yes. So I recently started a permanent jewelry business, and I also do remembrance pieces, and I do transformation pieces too. So I have a butterfly necklace for you, and I hope this necklace reminds you of all the transformation that you've been through and that you've become and who you are today, and exactly that. You wouldn't be who you are today, the mother you are, if you hadn't been through what you've been through. So it's really an amazing example to so many women out there.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you so
They're going to have another sauna session here soon. I can tell. All right, well, thanks. That's this episode. Appreciate it. We'll get back started in about 7 minutes.
On.
Hi,
You're
guys.
amazing.
Thanks.
with relationships prior
form
of
content out of
experience
it
in
on-
marriage, experience in parenting, and I think we start there, and then we'll get into how you met and all that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is just,
I'll flow wherever.
but we don't have a lot of funding right now. Like, we are so stretched thin. And so we paid somebody to do it, and it was like she put our episodes in a blender.
Coming. You're getting the unique full experience here. What? I'm not sure. Well, no, it's crazy. Your stories are really different, but at the same time, very similar. But all that matters is you two just can't wipe the smiles off your faces now, and you're doing good, right? Good stuff. All right, okay. Well, yeah, so we've kind of already explained this. We'll start the second interview now. We're just going to kind of set fresh with this cameras here and basically start a new episode. This is Sam and Dee Taggart. If you haven't met these two yet, they're awesome. We just met them. Sam's someone that, like, I feel like I've known or seen for years.
I've heard a lot about you.
Yes.
I came from the door-to-door industry, so I'm a little bit like, oh. But yeah, super, super excited to have you guys on, and really excited to hear about your love story. I think something most people don't get to hear a lot about, so.
Love it. Okay, we all ready to go? All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah. How's my mic sounding? Good?
Yeah, that was better. It was dropping low.
And I was like, ooh.
All right. We're. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fully Engaged. This is our second episode of the night, and we just had a great first interview. Patrick and Tracy Baum, go back and listen to that episode.
There
really
were a
cool
few
story.
tears shed just in warning.
Yes, it was a powerful episode, and I was laughing a minute ago because they are like experts and crushing it in the MLM world, the multi-level world, and our next guests up crush it in the door-to-door sales world, and I'm like, we've got Utah's bases covered tonight. We got MLM and door-to-door right here in the same house, but at the core, just two really awesome couples that we are excited to get to know and want to learn from. Sam and Dee Taggart, they have basically taken their skills as, you know, first off, Sam in sales and a whole career in sales, but then trying to see how can we help this industry have more integrity? How can we take the reputation in a positive direction? And knowing that at the core, that comes from individual strength, personal development, and all those things. And so he's dedicated your life to that now over the last little bit, which has been so cool to see. Just wrote a book, Eat What You Kill, right? We'll let you plug that at the end too, but go pick that up. And Dee, you two work a lot together, which is really cool. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to have them on. We're like, they're a couple that's doing cool creative stuff together.
Yeah.
But power couple, yet completely strong as individuals doing your own things at the same time, which I think is a good dynamic.
And I've heard today is a special day. I've heard today marks, is it the 3-year anniversary from the day that you two first met?
There we go.
That's pretty cool.
Let's do this. Let's bring them up on stage, and can we cue that video up? We're going to bring up on stage, and we're literally going to play that video you posted yesterday, and let's just talk about that first one right there. Come on up. Everyone give a huge welcome for Sam and Dee Taggart. All right. Perfect. I'll move this one out of the way. Hi, guys.
Thanks for coming
All
on.
right. Up. Let's watch this video. It looks like you had some pretty good moves. What?
Oh, wait.
Oh, close your eyes.
Okay.
So that was the very
should
first
narrate
moment
it.
we met.
Yeah, do you wanna
right
talk
there.
about
Hold on.
first?
Don't play
This
it.
is
So
the first time.
her friend, we had been so we got lined up, and I was like, she's like, hey, we're all going to dinner. I was like, no, come to dinner at Mint. She's like, well, that's weird. I'm with like 8 friends. And I was like, yeah, I made a reservation for 9 of us.
All
And-
of us.
Yeah, like all of us.
Please meet
Perfect
me
first
here.
date.
And
And-
I'm like, he's like, "Oh, if you're going to meet somebody, you might as well meet them with all of us. So let's all go to this date that this guy set up for
and,
you.
and she's in this like cute little handkerchief like country
Oh,
outfit, and I was like,
love
oh
those
my gosh.
handkerchief shirts.
And I walk in and sit down, and it was like love at first sight. And then their friend just happened to like snap this candid photo.
First moment of us meeting.
Yeah, like that was our first moment. And then yesterday, I wrote her a note in the morning, and I said, hey, wear this. And that's all I said. So I picked her up at like 6, and then I said, we're going somewhere. And she's like, and little did she's allergic to freaking fish. So she doesn't even eat. And she's like, are we going to Mint? Can we go to Tiburon? I was like, no, we're effing going to Mint. And she's like, but I can't
Are
eat
you talking
anything
about
there.
mint tapas?
Mint, yeah, the
I love mint
sushi.
tapas.
It's the best.
They just got voted best in the state.
Oh, they're incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, we're going there. She's like, yeah, but I can't eat fish. And she didn't even eat that night. And I had no idea. She didn't even tell me
no.
until later on.
I didn't
Anyway,
rude.
so play the video, and then this is great. This is good. So then we went country dancing after. It's fun. And it was just like amazing. And that was yesterday. we We totally took the same photo, and then I was like, this line dancing's really hard, and then this guy pushes me in. I almost got in my first Western bar fight. It was a moment. I was like
He was
tempted.
like, I actually feel like I should like hit back.
And I was like, how?
Mess look right there.
No, he full
I
push.
want to see that
He
guy.
full push, dude, and I was like, this is that moment.
Oh, let it go.
So good.
Anyway, it was dope.
You only get to watch it once.
Oh, here it is. This is it. Full
What
push,
the-
dude.
Got full
Yeah,
stiff
full
arm.
stiff
Yeah,
arm.
Get off.
That is so. What happened after the stiff arm?
I just kind of looked at him and I was just like, oh, okay. And he's like, if you're not in the line, don't be in the line. I'm like, this is hard.
Trying.
Lawn. Oh, he cares about his square dance.
Oh, he was in
serious.
it.
He was really serious, you guys. For a second, I was like,
Be in the line. Don't
he
be
might
in the line.
actually
no,
like try to push him out of the country dancing.
So we finished
club.
that night.
Yeah.
So after country dancing, when we first met, she's like, hey, I'm going to stay here. And I was like, I got to go home and relieve the babysitter. I was like, come with me and I'll take you home. And then the babysitter calls. She's like, I got to go right now. And I was like, I guess you're coming to my house. So I take her home to my house, play the guitar over the serenaded over the lights. We have the beautiful view. And yeah, the rest is history at that point. It's like, all right.
Aw.
Got,
Tell
so
us
then
the
I
story
did that
about
last
it,
night too.
Becky.
So we like did the whole
Cute.
whole first date last night. It was really cool.
That is awesome. Good for you guys. And is
Yeah,
that true?
cute.
Did he serenade you? Is that when you were
It
hook, line, and
was.
sinker?
I mean, he wrote a book called ABCs of Closing.
Oh.
It's a sales book. He definitely used some sales tactics on me.
So he used the ABCs of closing on
now
you.
looking back at it, I'm like,
I
okay.
busted out the guitar. I'm like, I wrote you the song, and I
No,
busted out
this was
original.
before that,
It was
'cause I was gonna stay country dancing. All my friends were there, and I had drove up with them. So I'm like, He's like, I got a babysitter. I'm like, great. Have a great night. It was so nice to meet you. Like we had so much fun. Like, go home. Bye. And he's like, doesn't take no for an answer. So he had gone to my friend husband and went and got my keys from his car and was like, brought him in. He's like, hey, I got your keys. Come on, just let me drive you home. I didn't get enough time to get to know you. And I was like, no, I'm having so much fun. Like, it's okay. My car's at their house. It's all the way down, like, in Lehigh.
Yeah.
And we're up in Salt Lake. I'm like, it will be a long time. He's like, just let me give you a ride. And as we're on the 215, that's when he gets the call. And the babysitter's mom is like, hey, are you going to be home? He's like, yeah, 5 minutes. And I'm like, my house is 30 minutes. My car is 30 minutes that way. And then your house is 30 minutes back there. You're like an hour away from home. And he's like, he hangs up. He's like, yeah, I'll just take you to my house. I'm like, why did I even come
What?
with you? Like,
Oh,
I'll just call my
stop.
friends to come get me. But there was a part of me that that was investigative, that wanted
Yeah.
to find out, like, who is this guy? Is
Yeah.
he married with kids? Like, what is this situation? I want to, like, kind of investigate. So I was like, all
You were
right, it won't hurt.
intrigued.
Like, I'll go and, like, kind of scope out.
Yeah.
And, of course, he's like, well, you're waiting for your Uber or your friends to come get you. Come on in. And just rips out his guitar and just, I wrote this song for you. And I'm like,
Did you take the guitar on the doors too?
no.
the song was literally, throw me a parachute because I'm falling fast in love with you.
Oh, stop.
Not in love with you, but I'm
And it's
falling
like,
fast.
it's like, you're the girl from my dreams, the girl in the
no.
movies. Like, it was very catchy. And I was like, this guy's got creativity. He's got swagger.
That
He's
is funny.
I think I actually like him. And it's the first time I connected with anyone and like had a connection in 3 years. So it took a while, which is kind of crazy because that same night, my previous husband was calling me at that same time that I was connecting with him. And I thought that was super weird.
my
I was
gosh.
like, oh
Like
my
a
gosh,
lot,
what
at
is
like
happening?
midnight.
So I'm literally like, this is super weird. I haven't talked to him. He's, of course, got girlfriend.
And I go, he felt our connection.
He calls again. He calls again. I don't answer it, but I'm like, oh my gosh. Then he
heard a
texts
snort.
and he's like, hey, I just woke up from a dream. You're with a girl. You're with a guy. Is he treating you okay?
And they go, told you.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, he just texted me and he's like, oh yeah, when your soul meets another soul, that soul's connection leaves that soul and then this soul feels it. And he's
And she's
like,
just
Wait, who's saying that?
he
You're
is.
saying that.
but-
So now he's explaining
was
what's
joking.
going on.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. I was like, oh, he knows.
He was
knows.
serious. And I was like,
Serious.
oh, okay. And then he goes, hold on a second. And I'm like, I feel super weird right now. Like, I feel like you should go. Goes upstairs, gets his leather-bound journal, and he's like, I drew you up. You're checking all my boxes. And I'm like,
What he said,
What?
I had 4 pages.
Yeah.
he
Very
had
detailed
4
out.
pages
Oh my
written.
gosh.
of what he wanted. It says wife 2.0.
I'm like, read this.
Like hair color, eye color, if these two people look like
Yes.
each other, love languages, hobbies, interests,
I didn't
into
put the
this, doesn't
charities
have
in.
this, like a whole list. I mean, I'm talking
Whoa.
4 pages.
And
he's
how
like,
long were you sitting on that for?
This is
Your
like
pages
night
3
one.
weeks? No, 3,
Oh,
4
he had
weeks.
written it, yeah.
in 3 weeks?
And this is night 1, and he's like giving me this book, and my former husband's calling me, and this book, I'm reading this book, and I'm like, what is happening?
Like I drew you
the
up.
universe is like
The universe is being
aligning
very obvious
with what
about
you
it.
designed.
Yeah.
The men
so,
in our interviews tonight are connected.
Yeah.
I wrote a journal entry the day I met her, morning of, that I did exactly that and wrote it
Really?
out detailed.
It's wild.
It was
I
like-
met her that night, and you'd read it and be like, "Oh,
Oh.
yeah, that's Bree."
It
You
was
wrote
like a
that the next day.
3-page essay on
Yeah.
who he wants
That's-
his
yeah.
woman to be, and at the very end, he wrote the words, "I'll meet her sooner than I think. Meets me that day."
It's crazy.
The stuff works,
Wild.
people. That's the
truly
point.
does.
Well, I want to say too, I was doing the same thing. I
It tr- that's
I
the
had
thing.
been
She was too.
journaling for months, even for years, just qualities that I felt that I had as a person and what I deserved in a person. And
Yeah.
actually, at that point, I was with somebody else. And I felt that if I were very specific and clear on what I wanted and who I was, I would manifest that in him or in someone else.
Yes, 100%. So the week that I met him, I was at a meditative retreat in St. George and at Snow Canyon, which is a beautiful place. And they had challenged me. They were like, "What are you missing in life right now?" And I said, "Nothing. I think I'm amazing. I'm on top of the world. I'm free. I'm like hustling. I'm just doing all the things that I should be doing. And I'm the single mom that's like, finally just like figuring things out." And I felt so confident and so good in myself after not had feeling that way for a long time. And they challenged me, and I just was like, "I don't think I'm missing anything." They're like, "No, what are you really missing?" I'm like, "I don't know, like I guess genuine connection, like a real friendship, someone I can share my wins and my losses with, my intimate, deep conversations, like someone that really is a best friend, really."
Yeah.
Well, where'd you find that? Like, think of your inner circle, your outer circle. I'm like, yeah, it's just not them. Like, they're great people and they help support me, but not that. And they're like, well, if you were to find this person, I'm like, I don't know. Where do you find people? I'm not even interested in dating. I'm never getting married again. I am totally good. And it occurred to me, I'm like, I guess a personal development conference or somewhere where someone's working on themselves.
Who's on stage?
He's like the king of personal development.
That's awesome.
So anyways, but that weekend, I literally reconnected and met that weekend. And I had written, which is crazy you say for time, because
Yeah.
he actually found a journal of mine when I was 17.
Oh, wow.
And it had all these attributes, and I had been previously married, and he fits all the attributes that were written in my 17-year-old journal. And then again.
And her
in-
first didn't really fit that. Which
Yeah,
is interesting.
which is interesting.
Oh.
So it was kind of a whirlwind of like, oh wow. And
The
we had
universe's
actually,
timing, right, over yours.
yeah, I mean, wild experience too. A year into knowing each other, we're looking through photos and we see that we're both at the same Easter egg hunt with our kids. And we didn't know each other, and I'm filming all of my kids, right? And he, right at the end of the video, cuts me off. And we
No
never
way.
collided, but
He's
we
in
went
the
back,
video.
and I was like, "You were at the Easter egg hunt? I was at the Easter egg hunt." And we watched the
Stop.
video, and it's the back of his head. And I stopped the video like, this guy cut me off. And we didn't, and our kids picked up eggs right next to each other, but we didn't know each other. We met each other 4 months later.
Oh my
Kinda
gosh.
cool.
Serious question. If you would have met that day, would you been ready for each other?
No.
Oh my God.
Why
Isn't
not?
that
And Why
wild?
not? And what happened in those 4 months?
I mean, I was closed off. Like,
Yeah.
I was totally closed off. And I had to go to that retreat, and I had to be challenged, and I had to have those breakdown, like that breakthrough, because when I decided, oh, I actually might want to shift my way of thinking, because I was in a very, very stern negative mindset in the sense of, I hate all men and I think everyone's terrible. And that was literally the mentality that I was in. And so I had to break that wall and I had to break that down before I could even open myself up to considering dating again.
Totally.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, we just had two
I wanna
people
hear
walk in
his
here.
answer
Oh,
really
sorry.
fast.
Sorry, go for it.
trying to say if I would give the real answer or just some good answer.
4 months before you would have met. And hi, Max and Lulu. We got some former guests in the crowd tonight. They're going to be in the season 1 launch next week.
I had just kind of gotten out of a relationship, and I was like, I just want to go try all the flavors. And so I was in that phase.
Baskin Robbins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the Baskin Robbins flavor. All right.
Yeah.
But 4 months you tried it.
Yeah, I was just like, this is a bad rabbit hole to go down. When you're like in your 30s and you have money and it's like you got game at that point, you're like, this is very lonely and not exciting at this
true.
point.
That's awesome.
I was just gonna say how crazy it is that you guys actually saw each other without seeing
I
each
know.
other.
I had no idea.
Wild.
We had something super similar. We were actually before we
Oh,
had
yeah,
even
with
met.
him.
Yeah, we were at a Christmas party gala, one of Jimmy Rex's.
About a week before the two of
Yeah,
us met.
yeah, and Connor was hanging out
But
with.
didn't meet each other then. Didn't
No,
see
we
each
were
other.
both
Hey,
there.
ours was at his Easter egg hunt.
At Jimmy Rex.
Jimmy Rex.
Jimmy
You
Rex.
shout out,
Two
my man.
couples right here.
I know.
Jimmy,
And
that's
Connor was
awesome.
actually hanging
Was
out
it the
with.
right place though? Just
No,
this isn't
not
the right
not
place.
even yet. He was hanging out with Max and Lulu, who are here today, and they were having a conversation where Connor was looking at them and saying, "I am so ready to meet my person. Like I can just taste her. Like she's right here."
I love that.
And then he actually points. He's hanging out with Lulu. He points to somebody else, and he's like, "I've got a date with this girl, like tomorrow
The
or
next
whatever."
day.
The
I'm
next
like, I'm
day.
going to get coffee with her tomorrow.
Well, I was standing right next to that girl.
Oh my goodness.
That's our good friend Ayers. And Lulu told me later that she was thinking in her head, she was looking at me and thinking, I feel like that's a better fit for you. But never said it out loud, and we never met that day.
That is wild. And was it the same thing? Like, had you have met, would you guys have been ready? I mean, it's a week.
The
but
timing was actually better a week later.
for sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, had I met her that night, our connection would have been, oh, she's cute. Let me spit
I was
game
looking
and
to,
see if
like-
I can get
yeah.
a date.
Yeah.
When we met the week after, I had decided to go on this ayahuasca trip. Was like planned on it. This was just impulsive decision 3 weeks out, and I was going to a party and knew that there was going to be someone there on this trip, and she was that person. So I met her that night,
That is
just with,
awesome.
oh, we're going to be on a trip together next month. Whereas if it would have been the week before, it would have been, where are you from? You're
Yeah.
cute. Let's go out. And,
and then we got to know each other really well on that trip.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, deep and vulnerable conversation.
Yeah.
With the dieta.
That's right, exactly. All right, well, let's dive into. Okay, so you both meet, and you both had experiences with relationships in the past that were less than ideal and put you on a path to get you to where you are now. So let's talk about a little of that. And maybe, do you want to start first, Dee?
Sure. Yeah.
You're like early 20s is unique of what you
Yes.
were doing and what you were asked to do and stepped into. So share.
Yeah, I mean, I got married super young and was married to my first love, and it was incredible. And we, surprise, had a baby like right after we got married. And he is the joy of my life, and I'm so grateful. And I think that everything happens in divine timing for a reason. And then right after I had a baby, about 3-4 months later, my family circumstances called for me to help out with my nieces and nephews. And they had a 2-year-old, and they had a set of twins that were 5 days difference than my little guy. So basically triplets, all the
Oh my
same
goodness.
age. They were all
Wow.
these new babies. And I was at home and just had a baby.
And how
so-
old were you?
And I was 20, 21.
20 and
years
just
old.
barely married.
4 kids under.
Under the age of 2.
And she decides to buy a Great Dane.
4 kids
And I
under
did
2.
get
Not like a
Great Dane.
Yorkie, not
Oh,
a
Great
Chihuahua.
Dane.
Let's
so
just throw
like
a
4
Great
kids
Dane.
in 1 dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
And yeah, you just like rip it off like a Band-Aid. When you're in it, you're in it. You're just wholeheartedly there. You don't know it till you're there. But I was like, originally it was supposed to be 6 months to just kind of help out, and it ended up being 3.5 years. And
3.5 years.
Yes.
Well, you're expecting only a few months.
yeah, it was supposed to be 6 months to kind of get them back on their feet and help figure it out so that we could keep all of the kids together as a family. And I'm so blessed. I had my parents who lived like 9 houses down the road from us, so we kind of double dipped. But they worked full time, and I was at home already with a baby, so it made the most sense. and I already had milk, and and I'm just like, here I am, and I was like, I got this. I really can. And you learn to love children, and especially children that need it, and you want to do it for the betterment of them and for your family.
For sure.
And so I just kind of stepped up and took that role, and I breastfed, a baby on each side because
Oh
it
my
was free.
gosh.
Like I didn't want to pay for formula,
That
and I
is
didn't
so
want to.
sweet.
And then I also pumped and I bottle feed, and so I just took on these kids. And I remember too, like a huge part of my journey, and even like I attribute every relationship takes two sides to tango. Now I get some people have decisions that they make and that are poor decisions, but there is conflict in every relationship in the sense of you each have something that you bring. And for me, all of my time, all of my energy, all of my attention was going into these sweet children, which is amazing, right? But it was taken away from my husband at the time. And he was trying to manage a business. He was running a landscaping business and doing a lot of things too. And he had his struggles as well. And that kind of got out of hand. And you're just juggling a lot. And nobody's kind of getting their needs met, things start to fall through the cracks. And so it definitely hurt us as a couple in the sense of I'm working at Costco in the evenings because I'm trying to get benefits because
my
he was
goodness.
self-employed. And so I'd work from 5 to 9 in the evenings at this Costco over here in Lehigh. And during the day,
time with the 4 kids.
during the day I'd have the 4 kids, and then my parents would come and help in the evening because they'd be off work and he would be home. And so we were kind of just like navigating this wild ride. And I can remember a time I had both babies on, and I had pillows propped up, and I had a baby with a bottle right here.
Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
like, the 2-year-old's coming up to me, and she's like, I'm hungry. And I just broke. I just thought, like, and this has been, I'm hard of hearing, and I've had hearing impairment since I was born. I wear hearing aids. I'm central hearing loss in both ears. But since I was little, and I think most people do struggle with this I'm not enough kept coming up.
Yeah.
And that day when I'm holding these kids and the 2-year-old's coming to me, that like really broke me. It says,
Wow.
I'm not enough, and I didn't feel worthy. And what you don't feel, you attract. And so as I was not worthy, I was gaining weight. Obviously, my husband's not loving me as much because I'm not feeling worthy of love. And so I can attribute some of that to my own responsibility, and I take full responsibility and accountability for the way I showed up. And I don't think it was either one of us was wrong. Obviously, there was hardships, and obviously there are things that could have been done differently, and
Yeah.
people make their choices. But yeah, I ended up having kids for about 3.5 years, and my brother and his girlfriend at the time, they were like, hey, we're going to get married. And they had a 4th kid.
And it was their kids.
Yeah. And so they had a 4th kid, and they decided they wanted to get married. And originally I was like, absolutely not, like getting your kids back. These are my children. Like I love them. I raised them. Like, are you guys ready for that? And but at the same time, my former spouse was going through some hardships, and he was struggling as well, and had to leave. And so I knew that I couldn't be a single mom to 4 little kids. And so that was probably one of the hardest moments in my life. I felt like I lost everything. I lost my children, my husband. Everything just got taken from me. And I felt defeated. I felt beat up. I felt like a failure. And it got so bad, it got to the point where I couldn't provide for even just like the home that we were in. And so I had to move in with my parents, and it was really hard. And they got their kids back, and I filed a legal separation because I was very hopeful. I was taught that, when you go into marriage, it's eternal. You do it forever. Like, that's just, you get married and you live happily ever after. And that's what I believed too, so strongly, so fully. So I was willing to do anything it took to make it work. And then after about a year, I realized that things weren't going to progress. And so I had to file the divorce, which is the hardest thing I did. And so everything felt like it was stripped from me. And I dealt with like thoughts and experiences of attempted suicide and low self-worth and not feeling good enough and all of these things that nearly broke me and shattered me. But by the grace of God, I've been able to be picked back up and used for a greater and better purpose.
So when you lost your kids, your brother's kids, right?
Yeah.
How old were they?
So my son and the twins were all the same age. My brother, and he got his kids back they were about 4.
They were
3 and a
4
half,
years
4.
old. Were they
Yeah.
calling you mom, or what were they calling you?
They call me Mama Didi. I didn't
Mama
ever have
Didi.
them call me mom because
Yeah.
I didn't want that to be too weird in the
Yeah.
future. And I mean, I still am a huge part in their life. And they didn't really understand it at the time. And so I just didn't want to make them confused. So I was like, you can call me Mama Didi.
Were they sad to go? Did they want to stay with you? What was that like for their experience?
So what was that?
What was that like for their experience? Were they sad to go? Did they want to stay?
Oh, it was heartbreaking, and it still is. And I think there's a lot of trauma and things that will have to be worked through, but I still have gotten to play a huge role in their life, and even Sam has as well, and it's been super fun
Aw.
to just provide them with that love, stability, support, and encouragement. So
And it
I'm
sounds
really
like they've got a
grateful.
lot of support going on and family taking care of them and
Yeah.
their parents.
Yeah, so and their parents did get married, and now they have their 4 children and are working on a daily to do the best they can
Aw.
to parent them. Yeah.
Wow. That's really, it's amazing that, you know, I bet it probably felt like you didn't even have a choice in that moment to say yes. It's
I
just
did
like,
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like, of course I'm going to do this. But the fact that you said yes and did it says so much about you and your character. And then how hard it is to have that end, you know, to step into that role and then have that role change or look different. Sam, when you hear her talk about that, what's going through your head? And this, again, we talk about this a lot on the show of like, your partner's gone through stuff before you were there to help or to be involved, right? So how does that feel for you?
She's very generous with telling that story in the sense of she took a lot of ownership and responsibility where it's like she left out a lot of the hard details.
Sure.
And so it's one, and also a demonstration of her character. Like you can tell just she's like, how do I take responsibility and not be the victim of the dude's addiction and affairs and this
Oh.
dude, you know what I mean? And this person's going in and out of prison and you know what I mean? You're just like, you left out some
It
pretty
shouldn't say any of that.
She didn't
You missed
say
out a couple
some of the
Family
details.
circumstances.
She's like,
that
oh,
are
he
good.
just left. I'm like, oh, went to jail? Or I'm like, oh,
I try to
he's
be
in rehab?
respectful.
And
Very
I'm like,
graceful.
Yeah.
but I'm like, you're being graceful, which is hard for me to hear because I'm like, she's just that kind of person where she's just like, I'm going to take ownership. But then she also leaves out the detail of like them this weekend. I mean, they sleep at our house probably every other weekend, and
Oh.
they're over a lot still. And it's every time they leave, I watch the kids. I want to stay. I'm not going back there. I want to stay. I'm not like, don't make me go. And it's like, okay, you can sleep here one more night. You know what I mean? Like, because you just know, like, what they go back to versus what they see with us is just a completely different home care, you know, where you just know what they're going to every night. And you're just like, oof. And so she has a lot of grace with just how she shows up for them, and it's beautiful.
I can see how that's heartbreaking every single time, probably.
Yeah. And it's very different than like maybe a foster situation or an adoption where you don't know the parents or you don't know
Yeah.
the family and you step in and there's probably pros and cons to having them be very close and very involved or, you know, completely cut. You can see both sides of that. So it's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that there's a lot of people that can gain from hearing that sort of perspective and in different type of dynamic like that. Sam, let's move to you. So you were married as well before, right? And so what did, I know kind of your divorce led you on a personal development journey or was a big part of that. So explain that a little bit and how it led the two of you together.
Yeah, great question. So I'm the typical Utah kid of just like, get on for your mission, first girl you meet, 9 months later you're married, a year later you have a
I've
kid.
never heard of that
No,
happening.
yeah,
Nobody does that.
I'm like
Not
the
here.
most boring story, right? And then it's like, you know, and I felt like there's this societal pressure of that, right? And you might have heard that 1,000 times in Utah, right? So it's like I had the the white picket fence, the brand new house, the basketball court, the labradoodle, the wife with the Pinterest boutique, like just everything you could think of. I was the sweet bro at the door to door. I'm like, I don't know how you get more Utah like picture perfect blogger mommy than that. And I just remember though, like I went to 7 years of counseling, 5 different counselors, and it was just like I wanted everything I did. And I just was like, why do I fail? And why am I sucking so bad at marriage? It's like
the thing that arguably matters the most.
yeah, you're just like, okay, like I am winning at work, fitness, finance, like friends, all the things. And then you'd pull into the driveway from work and I'd park in the garage and I'd turn the car off and I'd sit there for 5-10 minutes doing breathing exercises. And I just, and there were moments where she'd come down the stairs in the garage and she'd start banging on the window. And I'm just like, I haven't even gone in yet. And I'm already getting into, because it was like you're entering into hell, not when you're like, like prep yourself. And so it's like you're going into a house, but not entering into your home. You know what I mean? And it's that feeling of like, well, this isn't how it's supposed to be. And so finally, my 5th counselor, I couldn't sell my way out of all of this. I'm just a slippery dude. When you call it like a counselor, I'm like, I'll outwit the shit out of you. Like, I'm probably a hard one to counsel. I feel bad for them. And all of a sudden, he just like called me on my bullshit. He's like, you never wanted this, did you? When are you going to own your truth? When are you actually going to like be honest with yourself for a second? And I was like, touche. And he's like, what are you going to do about it? Huh? And at that point, I was just like, you're right. Like, I can keep kidding myself, and I could keep pretending, but, like, my soul knew before getting married it wasn't right. But I felt societal pressure, and I felt like, oh, her dad's already paid for the wedding, and, oh, I don't want to be the guy that calls off at an engagement. That's awkward. You know what I mean? Like, so I just kind of went with it, and I knew that, and I carried that for 9 years.
Wow.
And it's like, when that's like sitting inside of you and as your truth, and you're just like trying to like push it and suppress it, you're like, but I made the commitment, you know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, but you also didn't like listen to something that was like itching at you for a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I finally was just like, all right. So then I called it and I was just like, this isn't working, let's be done. And that sent me on kind of an opportunity, I guess you could say. Like, never had I been like, all right, blank slate everything. Like, I went business, blank slate. Like, I didn't restart a new company, but I just kind of looked at every person. I drew it up on a mirror, I remember, in my bathroom at an expo, and I was like, like keep, not keep, redo, and I was just like crossing things out. And then religion, same thing. Family, you know what I mean? Just like each thing. And I said, how do I have a total reset? And I remember going to my mom and being like, Mom, I'm going to like just go explore, and I was really nervous to tell her. I was like, I don't even know what I believe in the church. And she's like, you go down that rabbit hole. And I was like, oh. And I remember going to her, and being like, hey, I'm getting a divorce. And she's like, about time, like the opposite of it, everything you would think, right? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't talk to her. Like, I have a good relationship, but I'm not like my other siblings. They call them every day kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, that's maybe why my siblings call my parents every day, because they're like pretty rad, like. And I'm over here scared as crap to tell. I'm the only one who's gotten divorced in my family. I'm the only one who's gone on some faith journey. Like, I'm the only, you know what I mean? So I'm just nervous. I'm like, what are they gonna do? And they were just like so supportive. They're like, you go down that path.
Aww.
Like, good for you. And I just like, man.
Way to go, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, but like, how often do you have this unnecessary fear of what are people gonna think? What's the judgment gonna be? And so it just kind of gave me this freedom of like, F it, I'm going to do whatever I want and just like live. And it was the most beautiful. I wrote another book on that. It's called The Self-Experience. And it's just all about how do you go find your own self-experience instead of living in imposter's wants and living in a box of, how society's kind of put us. And I feel like that led me to kind of freeing my soul a little bit and eventually collide with this beautiful soul.
Yeah. Oh, I resonate with that on so many levels, but I was on the other side of the spectrum, right? So I'm Utah boy, never been married, no kids, similar age, right? And for me, my whole life was, I was winning at everything. I had all this going on, but that one piece that was what I wanted more than anything else. That's what was the most important part, and I just couldn't seem to figure that out, right? And so I bring that up because I know from being there, and also a lot of other people, that there are a lot of people that probably looked at you during that time of your life when you had the Pinterest life of like, that's the just absolute climax, right? That's as good as it gets. Like, I want to get there. And it's so easy to look at other people of seeing what you don't have that you see they have, and to feel that lack, that state of, I can't figure that bit out. And so it's interesting, you know, obviously the two of you appreciate each other because you've had relationships that weren't there. She's in a similar spot to you, but I have just as much gratitude for our relationship because I know what it's like to not have a relationship, right? Like being alone is just as hard or different in ways of being in a relationship that you might feel alone, right? 100%. And so it just, as you point that out, I think it's so good when you just peel back the layers. Everyone has their stuff. You all have your conditioning, the things that you've been working on, and then when the rubber meets the road, you just got to ask yourself, well, what really matters to you? Who are you, right? And so you two find each other in that moment, and now you are intentional about your relationship. You're not going to fall into a relationship accidentally now with both of your stories. So you have that fantastic first date, and he charms you with the guitar and the music and country dancing and all of it. But then how does that develop into depth and the speed on that? What did that look like?
Yeah, the depth happened almost instantaneously. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but when you feel like you've known someone forever because you just feel like you can completely be open with them and go to those levels of depth, that's like a soul connection. And this is like in any relationship. You can have that with girlfriends that you have, like for me, or even guy friends, or just people. But when you meet somebody and you're just like, I see you, I understand you, I feel like I've known you from before this and after this. Like, we just connect. And so I think our connection was definitely that. It was just so open, so vulnerable, so freeing in the sense of that was a soul connect. And so I feel like the depth has been there. Obviously, it continues to grow, and it continued to grow. And even things that would have, in my becoming, things that would have turned me away in the past, I have been able to learn to love and to see differently because of the experiences that I've been through. And so I'm so grateful for the trials that I went through, because if I hadn't gone through those trials, I wouldn't have been able to love and accept our relationship and some of the things that we go through. So it really, depth is, and vulnerability is everything when it comes to growing together.
Yeah, it was powerful. Like, not only like shared interests, like it's like we mountain bike and we ski and snowboard, and you know what I mean? Like, it's like, man, where do you find a girl that just like does all the cool things? Like, I want to learn golf, and she gets like really good at golf. You know, you're just like, dude, okay. So that's like surface level though, but I think it's just like from a core belief system, from a even just like the way that we approach people and how we want to serve, and you know what I mean? It just kind of like everything kept lining up quickly. So it's like conversations became really easy. You know, even just the conscious awareness. I think when you have a do-over or a mulligan in a relationship, you know, it was the day I got divorced, essentially, or made that decision. I'm on a Zoom call in a dude's wedding I went to in San Diego, and it was his bachelor party that night, and you know what I mean? I'm just sitting there, I'm like, man, I'm at a wedding, and I just called my marriage. Like, this is a serendipitous moment, and
He's
that
writing
morning,
his vows.
that morning, he goes and writes his vows, and I was like, I'm going to go write my vows, and he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm going to go write my divorce vows, and my vows of how I'm going to show up as a single man and as a future married man, and I wrote like 3 pages of vows, and just because it's like sometimes in a relationship you build so much baggage that you didn't consciously know you were going to build with somebody, right? And so like going into this one, it's like not that there isn't baggage, it's just how can I make sure that I do nothing to create like unintentional baggage. So it's like you have so much more intentionality of how you treat each other, how you talk about each other, how do you show respect for one another, etc. And it's like I was like, how do I just like keep
And
a
own your
cleaner,
truth.
yeah, and own my truth, like,
Mhm.
and it was just my number one was trust and truth and radical honesty, no matter what, and like, you know what I mean, and just like, how do you approach depth right out of the gate so that you can set a precedence to where it's like, you know that this is me, and I never hid anything from the beginning. I never had to, just so you know, 6 months in, it's like, that would have been good to know.
Yeah. And I think, too, to just touch on what he said, is value systems, beliefs, and making sure you have aligned shared vision and mission. It's like
For sure.
my vision and mission is to continue to develop myself, to expand my life and the lives I lead. And that's his vision and
Yeah.
mission. And so that's a shared vision and mission. So like no matter what we do, it's like we're going to continue to expand ourselves and so that we can go and expand the lives we lead.
Yeah.
And that's our shared vision. And I think having that, and then also just having, I think most people get in arguments or disagreements based on a belief system. They don't believe the same things and they can't see eye to eye, and one person thinks their way's right and one person thinks their way's right. And when you can really approach things with a similar belief system, but also just approach things with unconditional love from God's perspective, like if you could just like remove yourself and watch the conversation from God's perspective, and he's like, I love you both, like equally, it really helps in those deep conversations and that vulnerability and being able to like bring yourselves together.
Totally. Yeah. You said something that stood out to me. You said when you have two people that are both willing to work on themselves, it makes it easier to commit and to know that you have full trust in that person.
Yeah.
Right? I've seen so many relationships where there's one person who's working on themselves and one person who's not, and it's like, what are your options there? Right?
Well, usually that one person, because the one person that's not working on themselves, it's like they work on the other person.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
And that's
Yeah.
what
Work on
I
the other
did.
person,
That's
yeah.
what I did for 6 years with the father of my 2 kids. And then when I met Connor, it was easy for me to commit and go all in with him because I found him somebody who was extremely handsome, but also somebody who was so willing to put in the work. And I found that really easy to commit to. Like, I'm not worried of him ever going down on that.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that concept of just being in that place for when you find the person. That it's not, I'll change or I'll figure this out when it comes into play. I was the same way with her. I was a part of a retreat like a month before we met. It was with a lot of guys that were talking about, they were meditation type thing and realizing, man, they need to go home and have some conversations with their spouses, right? And they needed to come clean about certain things. And there was this support in the group of guys going home that you knew were going home to have tough conversations. Me, on the other hand, I couldn't really resonate with them because I didn't have anyone to go home to. And so I'm sitting there like, good luck. Like, that guy's got to do that. Like, I'm going home to my bachelor pad apartment by myself. And it hit me on the drive home from that trip that it's like, she's alive. My person's out there. She's there, right? And I went home and had a conversation with a person I hadn't met yet about, hey, I want to come clean about this, and here's what I'm going to do, and here's who I want to be. And when you talked about like writing those vows, I think that's so important for people that are preparing of like, at every moment, your person is out there, even if you don't know them yet, right? So don't live your life any differently just because they haven't come into your life yet, right? And it's just cool to see that development of how you two got to that point. Tell us about your dynamic now. So you've been married for 2.5 years. Tell us the family dynamic and what do things look like?
Blended family.
Blended
Yeah.
family.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, the other night, she's sitting there kind of like mourning a traditional family. Like, and it's like, I could see her heart. And it's not like she longs for her ex, that kind of mourning. It's just kind of like, man, it's so hard that my son has to get taken away for a week to go to Canada with his dad. And the fact that I have the girl, you know what I mean? It's just
And
like
this
that.
weekend you have the girls and we don't have and so
And he's-
it's not always a full and complete family picture the way I would want it to be. And there are moments of that, and I soak in those moments, but I think that's one of our hardest things right now is that we are split. And it's also one of our biggest blessings.
So what's interesting, so we went, there's like phases of relationship. I think there's like the honeymoon phase, and then you move into like kind of a control phase of like, okay, like independence and I need this, and it's like, okay, truthfully, I hate, you know what I mean? Like, and then you kind of go into like drop the ego phase, and then you go into like a union phase where it's just kind of like you become one, and I look at like, we kind of woke up to the realization of like, okay, we are a blended family, and we need to be a family. So how do we create systems and values as one when we're in our own relationship in our family? And so we came up with the tag team. It's like our core values, where it's like, trust in God. And
We had a board meeting, a family board
Oh,
meeting.
But what's interesting is now it's like learning the dynamics of how to have arguments in a powerful way, and how to connect, and you lose that initial honeymoon spark usually in the first 2-3 years, and it's like everybody's like, I want to make this go forever, and it's like, how do we find and share that spark again, and you know what I mean? And it's like, I think what's fun is learning this phase of a relationship that's a little different than maybe an initial honeymoon phase, and it's more of a realistic partner phase than I finally have connection, or I finally have a friend, or I finally have something to belong to. Because I think what most people do is they try to fill a void with a relationship. So if you think of a relationship, it's like, hey, I'm missing sex, so I'm going to have a partner I can always have sex with. Or I'm missing somebody to validate me, so I'm going to have somebody that can always just dote on me and validate me because that's what I need. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, so now that you've had that for 3 years or 2 years, you're like, okay, I don't need that anymore. You always give me that. Now it's like, but now what am I missing?
Yeah.
And you
What
come
else?
to an awareness of, I'm missing something over here, but you didn't even remember that they're filling this need that you didn't have at one point. And so I think as you move into a new phase of relationship, it's like, okay, what are her needs? What are his needs? And I think that's kind of the fun part of this dynamic now.
I think, yeah, and along that line, I mean, this is just how it's been since the beginning of time. You have your creation phase where you're creating together and you're merging together and you're making, and it's so awesome. And then you have this fall, and the fall phase is like, why is it dark? Why isn't the butterfly sparking? Where is all of the fun? Like, what happened? And the fall is actually so beautiful, is because when you're in the fall, that's where you really like get grit, you get tough, you overcome, you battle, you fight for
You
what's
learn how
really
to fight,
important.
too.
And then you move into, and this is in life and relationship and a personal, then you have the atonement phase. And what does atonement mean? It means at one. And so you become more at one, and this could be in your faith journey, this can be in your relationship journey, this can be in your personal life journey. Everybody has a creation phase, and sometimes you're in that, and sometimes you're in the fall, and the fall is what brings you to an at-oneness. And I think over time, you talk to these couples that have been married, 70 years, and it's just like, you see them on these cute videos loving on each other. They've been apart for 10 days, and they're like, oh my gosh, and they're at one. Like, their spirits and souls are literally intertwined with each other because they've gone through the creation, the fall, and they've gone through the seasons and moved through and been able to really connect with each other. And I think, like, when you can just see that and respect that beauty of life, like, this is how life works. And know that you're going to have the ebbs and flows, and know that you're going to have the ups and downs. And when he's down, I'm going to pick him up. And when I'm down, he's going to pick me up. And that's what we commit to. And we know we're each going to have hard days. And when you go into that commitment of being engaged and being married, you're really just saying, I'm here for you to support you no matter what, in the hardships and in the wins, in the creation and in the fall, so that we can really knit ourselves together to become at one.
Let's give a round of
That
applause
was
for
good.
that. I feel like that was just, you can't say anything back to that. It was awesome. You're right, life is cycles.
Yeah.
And in a relationship, you go through those cycles together, right? And if you're both at your lows, that's hard. But it's during those times where you're both at your lows
In the
that
fall,
you're able
yeah.
to be at the bottom together and work through that. I love that. Tell us, you two are creating together, and you are building businesses and content. And so tell us, like, one, what does the future look like for the two of you? I want to hear your goals. And two, how do you do it together as a team?
Oof.
The future is a limit. It's unlimited. It's limitless.
Our biggest problem is we have too much. Like, it's almost stressful. You're like,
Amen to that.
we want to build this thing called the Expansion Mansion. It's just this big old ranch with like, all the things. And then she has this thing called the Lighthouse that she's been ideating, and she can talk about that. And we really just like,
He's got a couple things he's doing too, multiple businesses, and we work together in a business, a mastermind called The Circle. And our problem is we just have so much we want to do, and we always want to do everything together.
that's our issue.
We
It's
have
like,
responsibilities.
come with me. And she's like, but I have other things. And you're like, yeah, but I
But what
need you."
about the dogs? Or what about the kids? What about this? And it's like we want to do our biggest struggle, our biggest challenge is that we do want to do so many things. We want to experience life to the absolute fullest. And our struggle is sometimes there is responsibility, and you have to be able to ebb and flow with that. And I mean, the future looks bright. I mean, we could create everything all the time, but we also need that balance or that opposition of the sense of someone to like integrate it and someone to hold the fort while that one does it. And I think too, like, the society has also looked at this women's role as being a supporter as a bad thing, but you don't realize like the supporter is the one to bear the weight of something, and it's helping bear the weight of the family and bear the weight. That's a huge responsibility and a huge role, and it's beautiful, and I think it should be congratulated and respected and loved and not looked at as this bad thing, right? And there's a lot of relationships that is not seen as when you hear the supporter, it's not seen as you're actually you're building a kingdom with your spouse, even if they're doing it and seeing that as a good thing.
And recently she's been an absolute rock star at that. Like, I'm like, the phase that you're in, like, let's take last summer, or was it 2 years ago? We had a family assistant that could do cleaning and watching the dogs and stuff like that. And it's like, right now we don't have that. And she's playing a lot more of a homemaker, where it's like, it's a lot to take care of a big home and dogs and kids and cleaning and this and that. And it's like, but it's also a lot to just play a supporter role when it's like, I'm going through a lot of like business hardship, and there's been a lot of massive bats to the head that I've just had to deal with over the last like 6 months. And so just to play a rock of like, hey, like, where can I get us through this emotionally as you come home and just want to like beat your head against the wall? Like, you know what I mean? And it's just like, hey, that's a role. Like, and I think a lot of times that gets diminished, or is like, what'd you do today? It's like, I held space for you. That takes energy. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh yeah, good call.
I think when you can like remove the titles of things and know that we are soulful beings just progressing on life's journey, and we're catching each other and we're ebbing and flowing, that's where true like at oneness comes from. That's where true connection comes from, when you're not like giving yourself titles and identities of you should be and you can't. It's those kind of things are what brings the frequency down and attacks the relationship, where when you're actually accepting and loving and you know that you have to hold space at any given moment. And sometimes you're not okay to hold space, and in that case it's okay to reach out to other soul contracted people that you have, that you love, know, like, and trust, to work with, to just say, hey, I just need you to hold space for me. And I think where you can really be cautious of that is not talking negatively about the other person, but rather just saying you need to be held in that moment, because everybody wants to be loved, seen, heard, held, and wants a sense of belonging. And so whatever that is, you don't have to bring in all the details, but you can just be that support for that person in that time.
Love that. You have something?
Yeah, are we close to being
Yeah,
done
let's
with time?
do it. Appreciate you coming on. This is awesome. So it's fun to get to know people in this format, right? And then see what happens after that. Thanks for coming, guys. All of you that are here, appreciate it. We actually do something at the end of every episode that I want to do. I realized we forgot to do it earlier, but we do a fun little game at the end. We give you 60 seconds. WTF, the name of the network, worth the follow. We give you a WTF minute. You can promote whatever you want. We purposely do it 60 seconds because we put them all on our... But we like to put them on our page and have those things. So if you want to take 60 seconds to say where people can find you, get your book, or whatever it might be, and if you both want to do it as individuals or together, you want to take a crack?
Eat what you kill.
No, I was going to say, so yeah, we just launched a new book if you're in sales called Eat What You Kill. It's about,
And everybody's in sales. If you don't think you are, you are. You're selling yourself, your kids,
Yes.
somebody on something, and this book can help you with
Yeah,
it.
And then
or
go-
you're not eating.
or go follow her podcast, Her Expansion. I think she interviews phenomenal women and just tells their life story, and it's been a really cool journey to watch her podcast. So Her Expansion with an X.
Okay.
Her
Do the DX is another podcast, and we also have a page if you want to follow us, just being us, wild and free. It's called Adventures of Sam and Dee.
Yeah. Oh, you know another one?
And
is
a
we do these
Taggart experience.
Yeah, we do these bucket list trips called the Taggart Experience bucket list trips, and we're going to. We just take high vibe people that want to do epic shit, and that's it. And we're
And
doing New Zealand in
New
the
Zealand
spring.
in February 2026.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you
So
guys
the ones
should come,
that
or whoever.
through.
I mean, we just kind of are like, that's what
Yeah.
the Amazon one
All
was.
of
It was
it.
a bucket list trip.
Yes.
We took
Yeah,
20
let's
people.
go.
Like,
I'm not doing ayahuasca.
no, it's in New Zealand. It's just we're just doing a cool
We're
trip
just
with
doing
cool
a fun
people.
trip with high vibe people
New Zealand's
that
awesome.
want to
That'd be
experience
fun.
life.
That'd be fun.
So
That's way
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. You see a lot
Love
about
it.
the couple too. When we ask them to promote themselves and what do, they promote the other. So pretty cool. Well, you've got a gift for them, and we'll wrap up.
Yes. I have a jewelry company called Osha Chains, and we were just talking about it before the show. But we were actually talking about butterflies and what butterflies mean to you, and you said something about transformation and rebirth. So I would love to give you this butterfly necklace,
Thank
and
you.
honestly, a personal thank you for what you've done in your life and what you've been to for those 2 children that you took in. Like, that was making me pretty emotional. I think that's so beautiful.
thank you so much. Thank you guys for
Yeah,
having
thank
us.
you.
Thank
This
you.
has been a pleasure.
Give them a round of applause. Thanks, guys. That's it. That was fun. Good stuff.